Alright, what's going on everybody? This is Z Street here, back with a brand new video. Today we are covering the Final Four in the championship game. Sadly, March Madness said in a bittersweet ending. It's sad to see it go because again, it is my favorite time of the year. But once again, we are treated to a fantastic year of March Madness. A lot of great games, a lot of cool upsets, a lot of cool stories here and there. From LeBron's former high school coach and teammate upsetting someone in March Madness, from an 11 seed making the Final Four, to UConn trying to repeat, to Kentucky losing again in the first round. In fact, John Calipari, the head coach of Kentucky, who's been there for over a decade now and has only had one championship, is now leaving the program, more than likely because of him, fans losing faith with him and sort of bullying him out. He was getting a load of crap because of how unsuccessful they have been in the postseason the last couple years. In fact, I think they're like 2-6 in the last 8 years in the postseason, including 2 back-to-back losses in the first round as a 3 and 2 seed. So not very impressive for Kentucky, but he is now leaving Kentucky, the pinnacle of Blue Bloods, for Arkansas, which is interesting because Arkansas coach is now leaving to USC. But let's go ahead and talk about the games. First, we have, one moment, everyone. Apologies, I am dog sitting right now. Side hustle for some very cool people that live on the island. It's really cool to hang out at their place. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the games. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's go ahead and go into the women's bracket. Let's talk about a little bit about the women's championship game. South Carolina versus Iowa, a rematch of last year. South Carolina last year was also undefeated into the Final Four, but Iowa upset them. Kevin Clark and Iowa upset them and then lost LSU in the championship. They now meet again, this time in the championship. South Carolina beating NC State, Iowa barely beating UConn. People say it was a controversial call. It was not a controversial call. Clearly a moving screen. Clearly moved their elbow. In fact, that girl had been playing pretty dirty all night and pretty aggressive all night, so she should have been called for a lot more fouls, to be frank. But that was last game. This is the championship game. It just was too little, too much for Iowa. Kevin Clark is only like really, truly great player on the Iowa team, and they were just completely outclassed by South Carolina, which has a much better and deeper team than Iowa. And Kevin Clark could not do enough. I was thinking that Kevin Clark was going to have to go off for like 40, 50 points. It's going to have to shoot well over 60 to 70% if they're going to win. She went 10 of 28, 5 of 13. Still had 30 points, but just wasn't enough. That was going to have to be like 40 or more points for them to even have a chance. Because even if she would have gotten 40 points, they still would have, that would have been 10 more points. They still would have lost by 2 points. But not surprising that South Carolina pulled away late. But let's go ahead and go to real basketball, men's basketball. March Madness. You can see already. That's the championship game. Let's go back to Saturday to April. So NC State versus Purdue first. Now this, people were thinking that DJ Barnes, the star player of NC State, the big dude, was going to use his strength to bother Evie. And well, and people thought that DJ Barnes is a great offensive player because he's so big and has great footwork that he's going to score against Edie. Well, he only had 8 points and was 4-10 and had a horrible game. So, not really. And then DJ Horn shot 21 times, probably shot a bit too much, even though he is a skilled player. But if we go over here, Zach Edey had 20 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Jones had 14. It was 4-9. It's a great 3-point shooting night. Boyer was 3 of 5. But as expected, the 11 seed loses in the Final Four. 11 seeds always lose. They really never get past the Final Four. They get to the Final Four quite often, honestly, but they just don't make it past. Then we got number 4, Alabama versus UConn. Actually, this was the toughest game UConn has played in the tournament. It was, in fact, they were down. I think before they played Bama, they were down for a total of like 28 seconds. That number jumped up from 28 to 4 minutes. So that still is not a lot of time, but still a drastic jump when compared. Alabama shot very, very well, 11 of 23. Shot good free throws. Were out rebounded, which was a big key. Way out assisted. And only 4 turnovers for UConn. And look at this 21, 18, 14, 12, 14. They were firing on all cylinders all game long. I mean, how can you guard that? And then if we go over here, you can see Mark Sears, 24 points, 3 of 6, 3-point shooting. I feel like he should have shot a lot more than 6 shots. I would like to see this in the 15 range. I really think that he should have tried to take over more. But again, UConn is really, really good at protecting the 3-point line. They have a great defense. They are great at off the ball help and getting back and recovering. Again, Alabama is a great 3-point shooting team, and they were able to take that away for the most part. But again, not surprised Alabama gave them their toughest test, because Alabama was the most like them, because like most teams will try to, because Alabama was a great fast break team. That's where UConn thrives. When they're facing someone that also thrives in that area, it was a bit tough and a bit challenging. But they did pull away late. They did end up still winning by 14 points, and they were up by about 20 points at 1 point. So even though it was a close game, it was still pretty much controlled by UConn once they started turning it on. And let's go into the championship game, which was an absolute slaughterfest. At the half, it was 30-36. Zach Edey had already had like 15 points or 23 points, I forget. It was very dominating. People thought that he'd be facing Clean, who's also a 7-footer, and so they'd be going one-on-one. Now it did and did not work because one, Zach Edey was still able to do pretty much whatever he wanted. However, because they didn't have to have the help on Edey, they could use their superior guards and more athletic guards and more skilled guards and bigger guards to put pressure on everyone else, not let anyone else score, and it worked. At the second half was all UConn, dominant performance. I feel like UConn actually exposed Purdue for being fraudulent. To be truth, Zach Edey is a decent player, but there are a lot of questionable calls in his favor. In essence, a foul marchant. But as you can see here, only shot 7 3-pointers. They normally make 8.5 a game. Only made one of 7, because they just could not get open. UConn refused to allow them to start shooting threes. And when they did, they weren't great threes. They got out-rebounded heavily. Even though with Zach Edey in there, they were getting out-rebounded heavily. I mean, look at this. 14-9. It's not often that Purdue gets out-rebounded on offensive glass. Assists, 8-18. Castle had 15 points. Fouled out. Not who fouled out? It was it was Johnson. 15, 11, 5, 20, 11. This was just a dominant performance. Here's what would happen. So UConn, whatever. We're gonna guard Edey one-on-one. If he scores, he does. Honestly, in the second half, they did a really good job on him. They played a lot of hard ball on him, and he was missing a lot of close shots. And they were just guarding very, very well. And they were closing out and recovering, and Purdue could not score. And when they missed, UConn would get the ball, and they would go on the fast break. And they would score relentlessly on the fast break. Relentlessly. Like, Purdue could not stop them at all. It was a total domination. UConn proved that they were vastly superior to this Purdue team. I'm not really shocked. I mean, it was a 15-point win. I feel like it would have been worse without the refs, because then they had 2 of their big men get in foul trouble, so they had to put smaller and smaller guys on, like Edey. But irregardless, UConn is the first team since 2007 Florida Gators to repeat. I think one of only 4 or 5 teams to ever do so, including Florida, UCLA, Duke, and themselves. UConn now has 6-0 national championships. They never lost a national championship. They also have 6 in the past 25 years, compared to UNC and Duke having only 3 in the past 25 years. So it was high time to consider them as a blue blood. They had that spurt of bad when they weren't very, very good, but now they got a good coach again. I think they're going to be a dominant force for very many, many years. And they could potentially chase UCLA's record of 11 championships. But we will see. Depending on, honestly, they could three-peat if they keep their squad, because I think most of the guys could return. I think they could potentially only really lose 1 player. They could keep everyone else if they really wanted to. So we'll see what happens. But Duke also going to get a lot of good players next year, so we'll see I think they'll be a great team. Kansas will probably come back to prominence because hopefully they will deal with those injuries. Kentucky is probably going to go down fairly quickly. Who knows what's going to happen at Arkansas with John Calipari? How many years it will take for him to build a program up? Creighton will probably take a nosedive as their players are now close to graduating. I think that squad is pretty much done. Not sure what's going to happen with Houston without Shed, because as we saw on the Duke game, without Shed, they were not good. Because everything on the offense runs through him. Without him, they were not good. But they got some promising young players, so we'll see. But I think Houston will also probably take a dip. BYU, promising team. Indiana State, a team that everyone thought that should have been in the tournament, as well as Seton Hall. They played in the NIT championship over Virginia, who not should have been in the tournament. Their coach left, and so that one dude left also. I forget his name, but he's this white dude with glasses. Super good player. Anyways, that's the end of March. That's the end of these videos for this year. Another great year on the YouTubes. This is probably my favorite series I've ever done. I just love March Madness. It's my favorite sporting event in the world besides the World Cup. I think it's the best time in the year. There's nothing like this on planet Earth. Utter madness, utter enjoyment. Great game. NCAA is way better than NBA. NBA honestly is unwatchable at this point. But yeah, that's it. Leave a like if you enjoyed the series. Subscribe if you want to for more content. I know the March Madness will be over until next year, but I do plan to try and do some gaming videos here and there. I'm not too sure exactly what I want to hit, but I do want to try and upload gaming videos as much as I can. Continue some series, maybe make some new series. I'm not too sure, but be on the lookout for that. So again, subscribe if you want to see that content coming up, and comment down below how your bracket did. If you won any of your groups, I won one. One of mine was at 90%, and then it dropped 80%. It was mostly an ACC dominant bracket, and then it dropped low. And then I had a low upsets bracket that was my highest. Ended up being like a 70% correct, which is pretty strange that a low upset one won. But I had a group of friends from work, and the one that doesn't really know much about basketball, the only girl, ended up winning the tournament. And so we'll probably all go out, and winner gets free drinks all night. So that should be a fun time. Anyways, again, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like. Please subscribe. It would really mean a lot. And comment how your bracket did if you won. If you picked any cool upsets or not, or if your bracket was totally screwed off day one. Whatever. Anyways, see you guys next time, and stay frosty.